and welcome to another episode of What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your business, your job, or even in your life. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt somewhat similarly, and they decided to do something about it. And today is no exception. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Shalita Hale. She's the Vice President of Business Development with Imito. In addition to her role at Imito, Shalita is also president of EQ Solutions, a real estate developer and passive real estate loan brokerage, which specializes in loans for passive income real estate investments, including rental property purchases, refinance, construction, and rehabilitation. Before Imito, Shalita served as a loan specialist with the U.S. Small Business Administration, which is something we actually share in common, even though we weren't there at the same time. And she's also worked in other lending-related roles. Shalita is a unique small business lending expert. How so? Her superpower is her empathy. Her empathy informs her ability to align her personal missions with the goals of her clients and the needs of the communities that her company serves. Her clients' wins are her wins. Conversely, when her clients face rising costs and labor shortages, she listens deeply to their concerns, uses her expertise to solve problems, and structures beneficial financial solutions. Shalita's clients come from all industries, backgrounds, and occupations, including hospitality, food service, beauty, health and wellness, sustainable innovation, transportation, technology, professional practices, and even pet care. Though they might seem different, she found out by speaking with them one-on-one, they share three key characteristics that mirror her own. Like her, they are problem solvers, have grit, and care about people. Shalita's experience includes over a decade of lending, as I mentioned, most recently having worked for the federal government with the Small Business Administration before joining Imito and having her own brokerage firm. When she was with the SBA, she personally assisted thousands of small business owners by making approval decisions on their funding applications. That experience, day after day, gave her the insight, perspective, and professional rigor needed to effectively prepare her small business clients for a seamless application experience and putting them in the best possible position to secure funding. Shalita studied psychology at Temple University and actively contributes to the community she serves through philanthropy, civic engagement, and partnering with advocacy groups. She volunteers with multiple organizations. She's a committee member of the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lending, or Lenders, which is also known as NAGLE, and the National Association Women Business Owners, or NABO. Having been born and raised in West Philadelphia, which of course makes me think the same thing everybody else, West Philadelphia, born and raised, she has a deep respect for entrepreneurs who, instead of getting up and getting out, they instead seek to climb up and reach back to serve inner city communities with respect and consideration. She's proud to support those business owners and providers in that effort, and I'm thrilled to have her here today as our guest. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Shalita Hale. So, yay! You get a big,
Thank you.
A nice round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So, one of the main things that we ask every guest after we read through that list of all of the things that you're doing, how did you decide that working with small businesses in finance and other ways, because you're not just working with them in terms of loan services, how did you decide that, but more importantly, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Okay. I'll start with the last question.
Right. Let's start with what little Shalita wanted to do.
Oh, it's so funny you ask. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a physician, and I started out as a pre-med major. Oh. Yeah, and I really loved science. Mm-hmm. I love nature, But, growing up in the inner city, there were some immediate issues that I felt needed to be addressed. So early on, I felt like I wanted to make a difference in poverty alleviation and helping to create generational wealth. So that's kind of what led me to where I am now.
Wow. So even little Shalita was like, I want to make changes when I grow up.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually wrote an article as an op-ed, and I wish I could find it, but in the Daily News when I was about 11 years old.
Getting started with the advocacy very, very early.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. My views have changed a bit, but my heart is still there. Like I want to see people win, and I feel that way about my small business clients. I really want to see them win. I want to see them actualize their dreams, and sometimes all it takes is adequate funding.
Yeah. So how did you go from, so you went from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to make change to small business lending. How did you decide that that was your path to making a difference?
It's funny. Even though I wanted to be a doctor when I was small, I found a picture that my mom shared with me. And it was an assignment that I drew. I drew myself with a neat bun and a picture of a bank. And on the picture it said, People's Place Bank, where we offer the best interest rates. Now, where did 6-year-old me?
Wow, this really was a young calling.
Yeah, it's funny because at that time in my younger life, I don't know where that came from. I think maybe it was kind of wanting to make changes with noticing that money is the way to solve a lot of problems in poverty-stricken areas. Obviously, at my young self, I put those two things together and subconsciously, it's manifested in my life.
Wow.
So that's funny, but I can a little more detail about how the actual transition happened.
Absolutely.
Even though 20 years ago or so, I found myself a college-educated career woman. I even had my own small business back then. 19 years old, I was struggling to make ends meet. And I said, why is this? And as a mom of toddlers, shortly thereafter, in my early 20s, I really had to make a decision. That was pretty much the pivotal moment when I had to decide, do I want to continue to just make ends meet, or do I really want to provide the life for my girls that I had envisioned when I was younger? And I looked at a couple different opportunities, and I did a funnel because girls were toddlers, but daycare was so expensive.
Yes. Really.
It was almost like if I had to make a choice, does it even make sense for me to go to work? But fortunately, I received a subsidy to help provide daycare. Okay. But that didn't, still, did I want to live like that? Did I want to depend on that? I just felt like that wasn't the dream that that wasn't the dream I had in mind. Yeah. I wanted to be self-sufficient. So I decided to look into jobs as a loan officer, because in the paper back then we had newspapers.
Yep. I remember one of my jobs I got right out of a newspaper.
Right. So I had to look. I just looked in the newspaper. I said, okay, I need X amount of dollars for daycare, I need X amount of dollars for the electric bill, I need this much for that, and what does that all equal up? And how do I make that much? And so I found 2 opportunities, and one of those was loan officer. So I said, okay, that's what I'm doing. So at the time, I did work in finance, but not in sales directly. So I said, I can make the leap to this. So I redid my resume. I applied to all the jobs I found. I kept getting denied. I got to the point where I was walking around with my very nicely printed out resumes and going to different organizations and banks and things like that, just saying, look, here I am. I think I can do this. But finally, I found one mortgage company called Hamilton National Mortgage.
Oh.
And they gave me an opportunity.
Wow.
And shout out to David Orr.
Thank you, David, for launching her career in lending.
Yeah, he was my very first manager, and you know, he didn't baby me at all. I was the only minority person.
I was going to say, because you were entering at a time when there was not a lot of diversity.
No, not a lot of women. There weren't any women in my role.
Yeah.
There were women in the supporting roles, but there were no women in my role in my company at that time, and there were no other African American women or any other ethnicity besides, you know, white in that office. And so I just felt like I had to prove myself, because I wasn't allowed to answer the phone at first because I was brand new, and I didn't want to scare off any customers. And I was, you know, I was ready to try, but I got the dusty older leads to try with. And so I called and called and called, and eventually, you know, I got better, and I ended up outselling everyone in that office. And I was, you know, with the tutelage of my manager at that time and the support of, I believe Andy Horboy was the owner, and they were very supportive in helping me gain the confidence to, you know, ask for the sale and explain my value and be confident and know that I had something really great to offer. So that was a pivotal moment for me to get into lending.
Awesome. So believe it or not, we're at the halfway point.
Are we?
I told you, it's always surprising when we get there. So we're going to come back after this commercial break for more of What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Shalita Hale. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Shalita Hale. And before the commercial break, we were having a conversation about the fact that when Shalita went into business lending, there really were not a lot of women or minorities, let alone female minorities, in business or commercial lending, which is something that is changing over time. And we've come a long way, though we still have a long way to go. There goes my microphone. That's all right. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. All right. So you go in, you get these cold leads, these dusty leads, one could even say zombie leads. You resurrected them and you outsell everybody. So where do you go from there now that you've proven yourself with the awesome mentorship of this person who took a chance? Yeah,
well, you know, I was very grateful for that opportunity. And I for a lot of years, I helped a lot of home buyers purchase their first home. And that was really exciting for me. At the time, that was the epitome of, you know, helping the community. You're helping people become, you know, change from renters to owners. But you know, after doing that for so many years, I saw another opportunity. I saw another passion well up in people when they start talking about their business and their passions. And I was like, wow, how can we make that happen? I have those conversations with people all the time, just about what they like and how would they like to spend their time and what they would like to accomplish with their life. And a lot of that is surrounded around their business. It's their baby. Yeah. So I found it really rewarding to help people come up with ideas on how to get businesses off the ground. And you know, when the opportunity at the Small Business Administration. I know, that's how we call it. Association.
It's too funny. Everybody does that.
Yeah, but working for the federal government was, you know, that was also something I'd always want to do. And during COVID, I felt like I was I've never been in the armed forces.
Whoa, yes.
But during that time, that's how I felt. I felt like I was doing my service to small businesses that actually run the country. So I was really proud to be able to help them during that time.
And definitely kudos to you, as well as all all of my former colleagues, our former colleagues at the SBA who were there. We're talking about a very small agency that did more lending in 6 months than it had done in the history of its existence.
That's
it
true.
was crazy.
It was.
At the same time that they were also dealing with the trials and the illnesses and the family members that were affected and working remotely on antiquated technology.
Yeah.
And for all of the criticism that they got for the little things that went wrong in here and there, what they were able to do for small businesses in this country was seemingly making the impossible possible.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think the team there really did a good job, and we worked very long hours. And while I was there, I approved literally thousands of applications for small businesses, and I heard their stories and I heard their pain points, and that really inspired me to want to do more and to really want to stand in the gap. Small businesses actually make most of the jobs in this country.
Yes.
They're the backbone of this country. And as, you know, baby boomers get older, what is going to happen to these businesses? We need more people to, you know, come in and take over and really, you know, fill up, you know, help our country to go on.
You're right. And it's slowly changing, but when we were coming up through school, entrepreneurship wasn't something that was really taught.
Right.
And thankfully that's changed because there is a legitimate need.
Oh, there are.
This country, especially when it comes to mechanics and carpentry and other trades and medical professionals, we're facing shortages of people who do want to start their own business and go into those fields.
Right.
And so being able to have someone to work with to help them navigate the financing field, because it really is really critical to their success.
Yeah, it is.
Because you might be a fantastic baker, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand financing.
That's true, and we do make sure that our clients, when we review their plans, and you know, I take the extra time to ask the tough questions, and you know, as an advocate for them, to know, you know, make sure that you really know what you're getting into. So I find that's how I found myself with Amido, and it's funny, I found that position on LinkedIn. I actually reached out to the CEO, who is Alexis Hamilton, and you know, I was looking for mentors, looking for mentorship. You know, I saw a female executive who had risen up the ranks and really, you know, is leading this organization. So I was inspired by that, and I said, well, how do I, you know, how can I enter into this role? And what qualifications or what things should I work on? And she said, you know what, I think I have something for you here. Wow. So that's how I ended up getting the job at Amido. And I have a similar experience with Amido that I had at Hamilton. I have a very, very nice manager, the director of business development, or the chief business development.
Okay, yeah, because
I forget his title.
Yeah, because you're a business development officer,
right?
And so, yeah, you would report to the director. So,
yeah, the chief business development. Yeah, I forget what his name is, but he's my boss, and I like him a lot.
She likes her boss. And what's interesting is so you got your start at a place named Hamilton, and then you reached out for a mentorship opportunity with someone whose last name was Hamilton.
Isn't that something?
So there definitely seems to be something about the name Hamilton that works for you.
And something about joining in with little experience and coming out this first quarter, I think I closed more deals than any other BDO in my company. So I'm celebrating that right now.
Which is awesome, especially when you have targeted a niche area. You know, there's a perception that, as a business loan officer, you can't necessarily be successful unless you're working with the highest end businesses and that make the most money, and that's not really accurate.
That's true. I mean, you do have to. Well, I do. We have a mix. We do have a mix. We have a very flexible credit box. Okay. So I work with a lot of service professionals, medical practices. I recently closed a medical spa, and it was a startup, and it's, you know, we were able to do leasehold improvements and pay for all their equipment, and give them some working capital, I believe was mixed into that deal.
I might know somebody for you.
Please, by all means. But I was really proud of being able to help, you know, that business, as well as the hair salons, transportation companies, supermarkets.
All businesses of all sizes.
Right. I really appreciate being able to help businesses that serve our communities, to provide the goods and services that people need in the community. So medical practices are a focus. And also, since I you know, as my younger aspirations, I was always a lover of science and medicine, and so I tend to get along with those kinds of folks.
You help them now.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, we're approaching the end of our 30 minutes.
Oh, that's so went by so
So,
quickly.
if there was any advice that you could offer, whether it is to a small business, or even to someone who would like to do what you're doing, who wants to follow in your footsteps, what would that be?
Well, I think the one piece of advice that would apply to both would be to not give up. It takes a certain amount of grit to be in a situation where you kill what you eat, so to speak, and also to stay in the game when you're a small business owner, because the number one reason why small business owners don't succeed when that is the case is said to be because of lack of funding.
Yeah.
However, the real reason that I've learned is that those people don't give up. The people who succeed just don't give up.
Right.
Because you can find the funding. If you can find me, you can find the funding. But you can't, if you don't have the grit, you don't have that fire in your belly.
And know yourself, like
And-
really know yourself, and be
Right.
willing to make those sacrifices and those tough choices. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And just really want it, you know, and be willing to work for it. And that's who I am, and that's who my clients are.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking about your experiences.
Thank you for having me. It's
And
great.
what is the best way for our viewers to reach out to you if they would like to connect with you, to follow up more about the services you offer, or to see if there's some more, I guess, Hamilton related blessings in that chain, which is kind of funny because Hamilton, you know, created the treasury and everything, so definitely a theme there.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, that's great. I had noticed that, but sure, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on my website, and that'll take you to my LinkedIn. It's shalitahale.com. They can email me at shale@amido.com, or they can call me. Call my cell.
Okay. And also, you can also reach out to us through the station if by chance if you Google her, you're going to find her. But thank you again for taking the time
you.
to come across the bridge and share your story with us.
My
because,
pleasure.
People need to know that there are people out there who are willing to work with you and partner with you to be successful.
Thanks so much, Barbara, for having me.
Thank you. So, as for some of our upcoming guests, next week we're going to be joined by Jose Gonzalez. Slightly different twist. He's the Wealth Mindset Coach and the host of the Wealth Mindset Podcast. And we have some other guests that I'm not ready to announce because they're not finalized, that'll also be joining us in the coming weeks. And believe me, when I say you do not want to miss what any of our upcoming guests have to say about their journeys and what they're doing with their why. And of course, if you missed any of our past guests, you can catch all of Season 1 as well as Season 2 to date on RVN.com and Roku. You have so many viewing choices these days, so many. In fact, last night I watched a movie and it said, would you like to watch this, or one of 41,000 plus other movies available? So we recognize that taking time to watch this show means a lot to us. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you'll tell a friend or colleague about us. And as a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which I have to emphasize now because of the time zone changes with who does and doesn't celebrate daylight savings time anymore. And then we also air again on Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And please remember, whether you are looking to make changes in your life or career, no matter how big or small, join us for more interesting, enlightening, inspiring conversations with guests such as Shalita, who thought about what they wanted to do in their life, with grit and gusto, overcame whatever obstacles or challenges might have been in their path, real or perceived, to find their why and live their purpose.